Welcome, everybody, to part two of the new media slash new genres lecture or talk. I hope everybody had a nice little break, little intermission, if you will, and let's get going on installation. So installation is different from performance art. They can kind of be together. You can have performance art within an installation. You can have audience engagement within an installation. But when I'm talking about installation, I'm going to be talking about it in a very like immersive environment sort of way, and then also in like a sculptural installation sort of way. When you're um, for a sculptural installation, you're taking a sculpture and you're installing it at a site, at a space for a purpose. Okay, but first we're going to talk about installation, immersive installation like Meow Wolf in Las Vegas. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of Meow Wolf, but if you ever get the chance to experience Meow Wolf, I highly encourage you to do so. It's a really unique experience. It's super fun. It's very playful. It really takes you to a whole new land. Okay, because it's immersive installation. So, Meow Wolf is creating through textures, through projections, through colors, through light, through various materials. This new world that the audience then gets to participate in. So it's an immersive installation. Then there's also Other Worlds, which is a little bit more East Coast. Um, and Otherworld is similar to Meow Wolf in that they are creating these immersive installations for audiences or viewers to move through and participate in. Okay, excuse me. And similarly to Meow Wolf, they're using different textures, different objects, different sculptural elements in order to create these really unique experiences for their audiences, to take them out of their everyday reality and to put them into a new space. Okay, to activate their creativity or activate their interest. Immersive art. We have to talk about Yayoi Kusama when we talk about installation immersive art because she is really one of the pioneers, in my opinion, in immersive installation art. One of her most prominent pieces that she is is showing and renewing and reshowing is the Infinity Mirrors. Yayoi Kusama is an artist. She started her career in 1960 and she was all about painting dots. She would paint dots on really, 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 really long canvases. And it was to embrace this idea of the infinite, the infinity. Okay, so as her career progressed and as these new technologies came in, as she was getting more recognition for her performances, she she stumbled upon this idea of infinity mirrors. Okay, and through the infinity mirrors, she's able to create these infinite environments for audiences to experience. Okay, and then this is another iteration of the infinity mirror. It's different. This one is more mirrors on all sides and then lights hanging to create this infinity effect. Kind of like if you're standing in front of a mirror and then there's another mirror slightly off to the side and then you look at both mirrors and you see that infinite kind of portal. That's what she's playing off of. Okay, and then this is another iteration where the infinity mirror or the mirror is this box. Okay. Um, then we have the immersive Van Gogh exhibition, which is I kind of get mixed emotions on this one. I thought it was really cool and I experienced it. Um, but some of my artist friends, they would just rather see a Van Gogh painting. So it really is subjective in that way, whether or not the that particular installation is going to wow you. For example, some people might not be interested in Meow Wolf or Other Worlds, but might be really interested in Yayoi Kusama or the immersive Van Gogh. So it's really you should always be open for trying things, but recognize if this installation isn't for you, okay? Because it's okay if it's not, because not all art is for everybody. But um, for the most part, the general populace loved the immersive Van Gogh exhibition, including myself. This is another um, uh, still from the immersive Van Gogh art exhibit. Okay, so the Van Gogh didn't make this. He made the paintings that this immersive art exhibit was based off of. And so a lot of graphic art was being utilized when creating these projections. So all of these pieces had to be created digitally um, in some sort of software program to be able to get it really, really big to project. Then they had to find specialized projectors that that had special lenses, because not all projectors can project short distances, and not all projector lenses can project at 90-degree angles. So there are special projectors and projector lenses that are developed to be able to create these immersive installations. Okay, so graphic artists were integral in the creation of the immersive Van Gogh exhibition. When I was working at the Asian Art Museum, we were installing a immersive exhibition by this art group out of Japan called Team Lab, and that was right before COVID, so we weren't able to finish it. But we created this immersive environment with all of these beautiful projectors with these really interesting lenses, and we got everything installed. Then we had to shut everything down because of the pandemic. But once things got picked up, the those projectors were then used for the immersive Van Gogh. So that's why I have kind of an idea of what kind of projectors, what kind of lenses are being used, and the graphic artists that were extremely important in the creation of these immersive experiences. Okay. And finally, I'm going to wrap up installations with sculptural installation. So there's immersive art installation with projectors, with elements, with mirrors, with physical objects. Okay. And then there's art installations where art teams will build art off-site at a warehouse or a specific location, and then transport the art, and then piece it together if it's in parts, or just place and install the piece at the event site. One example, the only example I'm going to show you, because I don't want to waste too much time talking about installation art, sculptural installation art, is at Burning Man. Burning Man's an excellent example of art installations, sculptural art installations, and I wanted to include that in installation art because it is in the umbrella of installation art. So this is the Serpent Mother, which is the Flaming Lotus Girls Serpent Mother. We'll click to view. And I've worked with the Flaming Lotus Girls. And when I worked with the Flaming Lotus Girls, excuse me, let's turn that off. When I worked with the Flaming Lotus Girls, they really taught me about building a huge art piece with a community, brainstorming together, having artistic differences, talking through those artistic differences to create a really strong presentation, sculptural installation for the event. Okay, so we're just going to watch a few stills of the Serpent Mother by the Flaming Lotus Girls. Okay, so that's the Serpent Mother. And as you can see, it has a lot of flame effects. There's a lot of gas being accumulated and then shot out. There's a little accumulators holding gas on here, so everything has to be wired correctly. This head is cast dinosaur head with flames, with flame effects in it as well. And you can't see it, but there is a remote control, like we would use for a remote control car, that is, excuse me, that is controlling the head. So it's a remote control head that's animating into life for this whole sculptural installation. And as you can hear with the enthusiasm of the audience, it was a very successful sculptural installation. It created a lot of audience engagement, a lot of audience enthusiasm, and and because they recorded it, Serpent Mother doesn't have to always be out. It can be in storage. It can be in resting. A lot of art pieces, and I know this from working at a museum for 5 years, that art that is on display that gets hit with the sunlight, it deteriorates it. So after a certain amount of time, it's actually really good for beloved sculptures or paintings to go into total darkness for around 5 years. That way, the longevity, and it's a temperature controlled environment, at least in the museum. But when things go out of light, they're preserving it so that when it comes out again, it can be as though no time has passed and there has been no sun damage or no wind damage. Okay. So when we've talked about in part one performance art, we've talked about installation design. Let's talk about conceptual design. Conceptual art is art for which the idea or concept behind the work is more important than the finished art object. It emerged as an art movement in the 1960s, and the term usually refers to art made from the mid 1960s to the mid 1970s. Okay, so it's this idea, the concept or idea is more important than the finished art object. Okay, and one of the trailblazers that I am just always so happy to bring up in any artist talk is Marcel Duchamp. This is the Fountain, 1916. It is just a urinal laid on its back, and Armut was written on it with 1917. Okay, so it's this idea, the idea or the concept that the fountain is bringing is so much more important than Marcel Duchamp building or sculpting a urinal that is called Fountain. So this was also the beginning of the ready-made movement, where Marcel Duchamp took just a urinal, a ready-made urinal it was industrially made, most likely cast and made in a huge bulk, and giving it new life and new purpose. It's already been made, but the concept or the idea is now giving it a new existence and a new presentation narrative. Okay. There's also Cadillac Ranch by Ant Farm. This piece is certain Cadillacs, judging by the structure, they're an older model of Cadillac, and they have been buried in the dirt. And audience members are able to paint on them and engage with them. Okay, so Cadillac Ranch, the idea behind Cadillac Ranch is more important than the installation itself. The installation is super important, but the idea behind Cadillac Ranch is more important. So the concept of Cadillac Ranch, these Cadillacs buried halfway deep in the sand in a line, so that audiences can then come up and tag or write on these Cadillacs. That narrative is is the reason to create it at all. This piece, The American Dream is Alive and Well, by Nicholas Galinan. This piece has a very strong narrative between colonists and indigenous. So we've got the bear skin, and if you notice that the nails on the bear skin is bullets, and the skin of the bear, like we know it's a bear, but the skin of the bear is an American flag with bullets as the nails. And this is a very, very strong narrative, talking about colonialism and how it has drastically affected indigenous peoples. So this is a very, very strong narrative. The piece itself is created because the concept or the idea is what is the most important thing to get across. Okay. Then we have The Lightning Field by Walter de Maria. And this piece is just rods in a field, and it only activates during a lightning storm. And it only really activates when lightning touches down on one of these rods. Okay, so the concept or the idea of grabbing this lightning from the sky only during the lightning storm is the reason behind putting all these posts in the ground. Okay, so the concept or the idea behind conceptual art is the purpose. You have the vision, and then you have to think to yourself, how am I going to make that vision a reality? Then we talk about conceptual design, which creates a strategy to transform a concept or idea into visual media. It's the underpinning of a successful design process, and no project can start without it. Okay, so conceptual design creates a strategy to transform a concept. So how do we get Lightning Field into reality? Okay, it's the underpinning of a successful design process, and no project can start without it. Conceptual design relates to concept art or artwork expressing a creator's idea of how a completed project may look. Okay, so we have the vision, then we have to think to ourselves, what do we need to use to convey this vision or this idea? Okay. So first, there are a few steps. First, define the product or service. And this also plays into like product design, like not just, like Lightning Field, like installation art or conceptual art. It also plays into product design. Okay. So the first thing that you must do before starting any design project is determine why the project is required. What's the project's purpose, and what problem does it intend to address? When we talk about art, what is the project's purpose? What is the idea that it is trying to convey? And what problem does it intend to address? What is the narrative that it is trying to address? Okay. Then we have to understand the client, brand, and audience. Once you have the problem statement, identify the client, brand, and audience. Who is your client? What is their mission? What is the target audience? Understanding these factors will help you form conceptual designs that stand out from the competition and create a final product that uniquely appeals to customers' interests and values, carving out a space for your client in their industry. Okay, so if we're talking about art, like sculptural art, where is it going to be shown, or installation art? What space is it going to be shown? What type of audience is going to be seeing it? If we're talking about products, what's the client? Who's the client? Who's the competition? What's the mission? What are they trying to get across? Okay. And once you have those two, then you're ready to research competitors and the industry landscape. Conceptual design is rooted in research. Find out what competitors are doing and how they design their websites, how they create their sculptures, how they create their installations, how they do whatever it is they do. What are your competitors doing? Do they achieve their goals? What are there any missing elements? Is there a feature you would use as inspiration for your design? Okay? So next, research. Get to know your competitors. Get to know the landscape. Number 4 is brainstorming. After you have 1 through 3, you're ready to start brainstorming with your team. Or if you're doing it independently, brainstorm on your own. But if you're brainstorming with a team, you're able to talk out your ideas that can often help pull them into reality. Okay. And if you're brainstorming individually, it's recommended to have a tight circle of friends or people that you respect their opinion. And that's where you bring these ideas to. Okay. You ask them, you're pulling it into reality. What do you think about this idea? How do you think about this iteration of the idea? You start brainstorming, okay? And once you have the brainstorm, then you're ready to design and sketch concept drafts, and that's plural, drafts. Oftentimes that first concept sketch is not going to be the one that you use. Sometimes it is. I'm not going to take that away, but really you should create multiple concept drafts in order to fully realize the piece and how and find out the best way to create the piece or product to create the greatest impact for your audience. Okay. And number 6, then you will, and once you have your concept draft, then you want to develop and refine your prototype. Once you've created rough sketches that you're happy with, it's time to create more detailed representation of your design. You've figured out what it's going to look like. Now you need to know what's it going to look like from the top. What is it going to look like from each side? This is called a prototype or mock-up. And oftentimes you can use a scale model, like an in real life scale model using foam core, skewers, whatever you have on hand. Or you can create a virtual mock-up in something like SketchUp or some other software program. It needs to be a model that others can examine and provide feedback on. The scale model, either virtual or in reality, if you're writing a grant to help fund your installation or your art piece, you would include that prototype or mock-up in that application. Okay, and the mock-up doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a blueprint. It should give your client a strong impression of what the finished design could look like, okay? Because until we are able to physically get it out of our minds through sketches and through a scale model, either virtually or in real life, it's hard for other individuals, especially individuals outside of our group, to be able to envision it the way we do. So we have to create that for them. And in creating that for them, it works through a lot of other production issues. It helps us kind of iron out how we're going to create it. So this is just a visual representation of the design process for anybody who, like me, who is a very visual learner. First, we initiate the design process. We meet, we brainstorm, we canvas, then we research, then we create the concept design with sketches, wireframes, experience maps, then we design development, okay? Then it's technical detail design. It's the testing, it's evaluation, okay? Then it's on site. Then we're building it on site, or we're releasing it, we're publishing it, and then stage 7 is realization, where at this point you can get feedback from your audience. Because one thing that is really useful is once a product is awesome and ready to be released, once it's released, there can be new versions of it. One great example is smartphones. They've been released, and it's like every year we get a new model or a new upgrade. Sometimes the upgrades are more prevalent than others, but it's through actually having it and being used, we're able to then fine tune it even more. Okay. And that gets us into interactive design. Um, Interactive design involves examining and defining the interactions between a system and its user. Okay. As a practice, it strives to create more meaningful relationships between people and the products and services that they use. And again, this translates to both the art, the installation art, the the conceptual art, and also product design. Okay, so um, how do we create more meaningful relationships between people and the products and services that they use? Okay, um, and that we have to examine and define those interactions. Okay, one great example is the iPod, and there have been multiple iterations of the iPod. Okay, we when we started, it was kind of the one that looked like kind of like a Game Boy. If anybody knows what a Game Boy looks like, um, it's 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 like half screen and then half is the menu and the control bar. Then and it was released that way, and through feedback, through analyzing the product, trying to get better user experience, it became closer to what we know as a smartphone, what a smartphone looks like. Okay, so this is a really great example. Another really great example are headphones. First, we had and to be fair, the 1970s style headphones are still very much in style. But we started with these big headphones, then we compacted them, made them smaller. We compressed, we made everything smaller. Then we had the little orange headphone things with the pads. Then we wanted to get rid of the pads and we just wanted earbuds directly in our ears. Then we got into wireless, and now we have wireless earbuds that we just put in our ears, and through Wi-Fi we're able to listen to our music. So from around 1960, 1970 to 2024, we've come a long way. But all of these iterations have been released to the public, and the practice was to create more meaningful relationships between people and the products. Okay, so examining and defining the interactions between a system and user experience. Okay, so examining, defining, and refining and re-releasing. Okay. And finally, I want to talk about delivery technologies. Nowadays, we have internet and smartphones. We have the computer. We have smartphones. Many of us don't use TVs anymore. I know I just log onto my internet and have a smart TV, and when I do watch a show or two, it's through streaming through the internet. So we have these new capabilities. We aren't bound by the stage, only the stage, and whoever can fit into the auditorium, or the television, or whoever owns the airwaves for the television. We aren't bound by that anymore, because now we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have social media, we have the ability to make our own websites to promote our own work. So we now have these new delivery technologies which can empower our artwork and empower our brand, or or what we're trying to promote or produce for our audiences. And finally, I want to touch base again on linear versus nonlinear presentations, because talking about performance art, talking about conceptual art installations, talking about interactive design, we really need to reiterate multiple times the difference between linear and nonlinear presentations. If we look at the presentation that I've presented, this is very linear. It's going from one slide all the way to the finished slide. Okay, that's very linear. It's not going in multiple directions. When I think about We'll just look at that. When I think about linear presentations, I think about what we would consider a traditional movie to be. Like, let's see, like Lord of the Rings. That very much has a beginning, it very much has a middle, and very much has an end. It has an intro, it has character development, it has a journey, it has a climax, it has a resolution, it has an end. Okay, it's all in one line. This presentation starts from the first slide, ends at the last slide, whatever number that may be. Non-linear presentation is where you are starting with the beginning, but then the audience can move in multiple directions. They aren't bound by just this linear format. They could go from slide 1 to slide 6, or slide 5, or slide 2, then to slide 4, then to slide 3, then to slide 5. So nonlinear isn't bound by the idea of point A, point B, point C, point D. It could be point A, point D, point E, point Z, point H, but it's still creating this overarching idea. When I think about movies, trying to think about movies, because most of them are very linear, I think about Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. And Pulp Fiction, I think, is, in my opinion, a non-linear movie, in that the vignettes are created, and they aren't really related to each other, but together they create this overarching narrative. Okay, just like Matthew Barney's Cremaster Cycle is very non-linear. It's vignettes that are then placed together into this film that together create this overarching idea. Okay, so non-linear versus linear is something that I really want you to grasp, because when we get a little further into the semester, and we're working with our websites towards the end, I will want you to package it in a nonlinear format. So I think it's good to start thinking about it now. And when I'm talking about thinking about it now, like whenever you're like watching something or out experiencing a presentation, if you notice whether or not it's linear or nonlinear. Just ask yourself, is this movie linear or nonlinear? Or is this presentation linear or nonlinear? And then kind of ask yourself why. Is it going from slide 1 to slide 2 to slide 3 to slide 4? Or is it going kind of from slide 1 to slide 3 to slide 2 to slide 4? Is it nonlinear? Okay, so start just thinking about it, because I think just starting to think about it, starting to activate those conscious awarenesses is going to help for the future projects of this class. Okay. And finally, I'm going to end this presentation, part 2, with June Moon Interactive Art Experience, because June Moon is using very basic projections of fish on the ground and projections of shadows. And then she's got some sculptural elements of like stairs. But for the most part, it's just shadows. And she's created a very effective interactive art experience through just that. So let's end with this.